App migration. Handle with care, it's fragile. My name is István Verhás. I am a Java developer for more than 20 years within tackling with Atlassian plugin add-on app development for more than 15 years. I have worked from being a sole entrepreneur to building small developer teams of about 20 members. The biggest organization I was involved in is the European Commission with about 25,000 members, having more than 200 JIRA instances to operate, and the big one with more than 2,000 projects. I have written a blog post about the migration from IBM RTC Jazz to Atlassian Bitbucket at the official Atlassian Bitbucket blog. I am proud to work at the double platinum Atlassian partner, MetaInf, as an app developer. I was the lead developer of the Email This Issue app migration tool. Data center server to cloud migration is a hot topic. Within that, the app migration is very interesting. App migration is an extension of the JIRA migration, similarly as an app is an extension of the JIRA itself. We have already used to it that Atlassian supports the app development with continuously evolving platforms. Similarly, Atlassian supports the app migration as well. It's not a surprise that the name of the platform is App Migration Platform. For detailed technical information, visit the documentation at About App Migration Platform. What I'm talking about today is the bird view of the app migration generally and experiences during the development of the Email This Issue Cloud Migrations Assistant. We call Atikma, that is the migration tool of the Email This Issue app by MetaInf. Let's see the topics today. Starting from the app migration generally, through the functional gap between the data center and the cloud version of your app, we will walk through the classification of the relations between JIRA and your app. Then we will take a look at the lifecycle of the migration tool. Finally, we try to prepare for the future. What is the main focus of the app migration? During the migration, the main focus is on delivering the app to the cloud platform without breaking the functionality or breaking the relations to and from the JIRA. These relations are not limited to issue links, but can be any kind of links between your app's entity and the JIRA's entity. It requires to move and transform the data the app is working with. The data to be migrated could be configuration data or operational data. The configuration data is managed by the administrator or the end user of the app. An example is the outgoing mail connection in the Email This Issue app. It contains all the configuration parameters that is needed to send an email using a specific email service provider. The operational data is generated during the usage of the app, typically by the end user. It is usually available only to read by the administrator or by the end user. An example is the sent and received emails per issue in the Email This Issue app. It contains all the information about the sent or received emails, for example, the sender, the subject, the time of sent, and so on. From the app migration point of view, the big difference is that while the configuration data could be migrated manually, the operational data is not recreatable by the cloud administrator. Or we can say the operational data cannot be migrated manually at all. Let's see the functional gap between the data center server version of your app and the cloud version. As an example of the functional gap, in our case, the Email This Issue app has features with different level of similarities on the two platforms, server data center and cloud. The email templates almost have the same functionality with very little differences. The default configuration of manual email sending is exactly on the same on the server and in the cloud, while the distribution list is available only on the server data center platform, and we have no similar feature on the cloud at all. Before you start the development of your app migration tool, you must assess the functional differences of your app on the two platforms and create a documentation about it. For our functional comparison of Email This Issue, please visit our documentation site at docs.meta-inf.hu. As we have seen, the functional breakage is coming from the gap between apps' functionality on the platforms. Usually, it doesn't simply matter until the migration comes into scope, as the user is involved only in one of the platforms. The app migration introduces the users to both platforms. If the functional gap is caused by the limits of the platform, then document it in the user's guide and let it go. If the functional gap is historical, then in the plan phase of the app migration development, compare the cost of either enhancing the cloud app to fill in the functional gap or developing the transformation to make the user feels the gap is filled in. It's up to you, and it must be a business decision. Let's see the classification of the relations between your app and the JIRA. The links between the app and the hosting JIRA could be sorted into 4 categories. Inside the JIRA, inside your app, from your app to the JIRA, and from the JIRA to your app. At first, let's see the links inside the JIRA. It's easy and it's up to the JIRA migration. Usually, it is working perfectly. But what happens, for example, with issue links between 2 issues in 2 different projects, but only one of the projects is migrated? That is the partial migration. The bad news, it is broken. The good news, this broken link can be repaired. As soon as the remaining project is migrated as well, it will be healing and the issues will be linked again in the cloud. What about the links inside your app? It's easy also, but you must take into account the partial migration side effects similarly. Partial migration is a decision on you whether you support the migration on per project or not. Your decision should be based on the business requirements and the features of your app. In case of Atikma, we have operational data per project. Not to overload the migration with data without target, we decided to filter on the server side, based on the available projects in the cloud. It is fully supported by the JIRA Cloud Migration Assistant. Let's see the links coming from your app to the JIRA. This is the main area of JIRA Cloud Migration Assistant platform. You can look up the mapping and apply the new link coordinates in your app. An example when your app has some data associated with an issue or project or custom field. Okay, and what about the links coming from the JIRA to your app? Well, it's also handled by the JIRA Cloud Migration Assistant platform, but the dance is different. The migration of the JIRA is in advance of the app migration. An example is a post function in the workflow implemented by your app. Let's see the life cycle of your app migration tool. Do you think it is a one-time tool, as the server will be shut down fully? No. Prepare for long-term, as you must support the migration from data center to the cloud anytime in the next decade. The migration tool will be a bridge between your apps on data center and cloud. From this point of time, you will think about the data center app and the cloud app as one app on two different platforms and keep the functional gap as minimal as possible, at least from the cloud platform point of view. It will be your new app between them that must be supported and maintained as well. How can we get future-proof? Let's prepare for it. The final new consideration is that you cannot develop your app on the platforms independently anymore. As soon as you have delivered the migration tool from data center to cloud, then prepare in mind for planning the migration tool from cloud to cloud. Until that, go to the About App Migration Platform documentation at the Atlassian's developer site and start the development of your own app migration tool. And remember, handle with care. It's fragile. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, please contact us at istvan.verhas@meta-inf.hu.